Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Woodstock City Council, November 21st, 2024. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the Agendas, Meetings, and Minutes page of the city's website, and tonight all councilors are in attendance, no virtual attendance. We did have a closed session this evening that we ended 6:47. And next up, any disclosure of pecuniary interest? I myself will be declaring one myself. I will be asking Acting Mayor Councillor Leatherborough to come in my chair on item 9B, OP 23-11-8, SB 23-06-8, and ZN 8-23-18, as I do own property nearby that address being discussed. No more disclosure of pecuniary interest? Any disclosure of new business? Matters arising from the minutes? And that brings us to the minutes. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Leatherborough, that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Woodstock City Council held on November the 7th, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns with those? All those in favor? That is carried. Additions to the agenda. Councillor Lauder.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer, that the following items be added to the agenda. Delegation item 8C, Tim Dukes, Executive Director, Operation Sharing, Homeless Shelter Needs.
Any questions or concerns with that? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So that brings us to no presentations tonight, but of course we do have some delegations. And with that, we're at 8A. I'd ask Vartan Tizian, tree request, please come forward. And I apologize if I didn't say that correctly. Being at Joni, I'm used to it.
Yeah, I get it wrong sometimes too.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's right. Good evening, Vartan Titizian, 142 Dover Street, Woodstock, Ontario. I'm here before you to ask for your wisdom, your intervention, your mediation on a disagreement that I'm having with Parks and Recreation Department. Many years ago, the city planted some trees along our street. Beautiful, great idea. Respectfully, I believe the trees, there were some errors both in selecting the species in the trees and the location of the trees. The tree is now excessively protruding sap over our driveway, vehicles, some of the branches penetrating towards our front windows. As the tree gets older and stronger and is growing more horizontally than vertically, I'm getting older and weaker, also growing horizontally and vertically, and therefore losing the battle against the tree. Parks and Recreation has deemed the tree to be on my property, therefore my responsibility. I argue that even if the tree is in my living room, when I had nothing to say about the planting of the tree, the species of the tree, location of this tree, how could it be my responsibility when I had nothing to do with it? Therefore, I would like the city to take responsibility for the tree, either decide to remove it or maintain it going forward. I'd like to know the position of the city council, hopefully as soon as possible. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any questions of the delegation? Seeing none? Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for coming. Looking for a motion on the floor? Counselor Leatherborough,
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation from Vataran Titsian regarding a tree on his property as information.
thank you. Do I have a seconder on that? Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Discussions or questions for staff? Counselor Tate?
Through the chair, I just have a question for Parks. Is it on city property or is it on, do you know if it's on his property?
Your worship, through the councilor's question, from our records and the best resources we have available to us, it's located on private property and not within the city road allowance.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Lauder?
Thank you, through to the Parks Department. So if it's on private property, is that not, that wouldn't be normal for the city to plant a tree on private property, is it?
Your worship, through the councilor's question, we have no records of planting the tree. We did diligent search of records we have on hand at parks. And so we have no records on that. Our current practice is, of course, to plant within the city road allowance. But that it doesn't appear to be the case in this circumstance.
So just one more question. So if the gentleman was to take that down, to cut the tree down, there would not be a problem from the city.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Call a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Next up, 8B, Heather Wright, a petition requesting solution to reduce speed on Springbank Ave and Algonquin Road. Welcome.
I've been told to speak close to the microphone. Thank you, City Council and the chambers for allowing me to present this delegation. I feel it's better to be proactive than to actually have an accident. I walked up and down Springbank at Algonquin, from Lansdowne to Mohican, I believe it is. And I've talked to different neighbors and they all shared their stories with me and how concerned they were. So I would really like the city to take a look at reducing the speed. They speed at all different times of the day. We have a school right across the road from us. I live at 675 Springbank Ave. And I can watch the crossing guard very carefully trying to slow the traffic down. He's had scares. So we need to do something desperate. We can't help the volume of the traffic. It's going to be large twice a day because of the school. 5 years ago, there were 400 school students. Now there are almost 800. Springbank is a main artery for all the school buses, all the traffic, the parents walking, and it's really gotten quite bad. I would suggest, and this is my third attempt at a petition over 24 years, I would suggest that we have a three-way stop at Springbank and Algonquin, flashing speed radar signs, change some of the speeding zone signs because we have school zone signs that are 40 kilometers, then it goes right into a 50. So I think drivers are confused. Speed bumps would be very much needed. I did receive an email yesterday from Jeff Bunn. He's the manager of legislative services with the city of Woodstock. Apparently the city engineering department is aware of many complaints. And there is a transportation plan being completed to include a calming policy to be adopted by council early 2025. I Googled what a calming area policy was, and it included all of the suggestions I have made: speed bumps of different proportions, flashing radar signs, calming speed signs, slowing the traffic down. I just want to say the crossing guards, the school, all the parents are fully behind me on behalf of the neighborhood. There have been several accidents. One about 3-4 years ago, Christmas Eve, the hydro box was knocked right off the platform, and the second house in the corner across from me, the front porch had been slammed into 10 years ago with, again, another hydro box being knocked off. And trees have been hit and had been taken down and replaced, and a woman walking her dog on a leash. The dog was hit and killed. Those are just a few. I don't want a child to be killed. I thank you very much for your time and your patience, and I look forward to working with the police. I've called them many times. They're wonderful to work with, and thank you for your help.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Any questions of Ms. Wright before she sits down? Sorry for calling you back
Okay.
up. It looks like, oh, Counselor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a comment to the delegation. Thank you for your continued advocacy around speeding. As many have heard around this horseshoe, I live in the north end of Woodstock by Northdale Public School, and speed has been an ongoing issue across the city, but certainly as it involves young children. So I have been anticipating this traffic calming policy, but I do just want to express my appreciation for your advocacy because it's really important to have safe streets. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, again, through the delegation. By looking at the names of the petition that you've included in our agenda tonight, were those names collected throughout the city of Woodstock or from around Oxford County or strictly from your neighborhood?
I know some of the postal codes don't show that they're right from Springbank Ave. A lot of them are teachers that come into the area from out of town. That's one explanation. Of family members of parents that live on Springbank who have signed it.
Anyone else? Well, I too will thank you very much for coming forward with us. Looking for a motion? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
That Woodstock City Council received the presentation from Heather Wright to reduce the speed on Springbank Ave at Algonquin Road as information.
Thank you. Seconded by Counselor Lauder. Discussions or questions? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the mayor to Mr. DeHaan, this transportation master plan, I know that you and I have spoke about this a few times, and the traffic calming measures. In a really quick synopsis, can you just explain what that looks like, what that means? Because I think it can look different in different municipalities depending on obviously the sizes of those areas. So can a quick snapshot maybe just to help people understand what that will be?
Your worship, through the counselor, I certainly will try. It basically it's a policy that's going to have the city adopt, for one, a procedure on how these are turned in, how they're filed with the city, and you know, right, basically all the steps on implementation. It outlines the acceptable and not acceptable methods. There's a whole bunch of different methods. Some are applicable to one type of roads, some are applicable to different types of roads. So it'll quantify that also. And it basically will make sure that all of our speed calming devices are, they're applicable to the situation, they're consistent across the city, and they're justifiable. A large portion of the policy is actually going to rely on Ontario standards.
Just to follow up, I think that we hear about speed quite often. You know, I live in this neighborhood, so I can say that, you know, you see a lot of careless driving, but I see it everywhere, unfortunately. And I mean, I was almost rear-ended on Clark Street this week for doing 45 in a school zone by somebody who decided that going 80 was the better option. And it was not a kid going to school, by the way, but, folks just need to slow down and be patient. And if you're late for an appointment, then you pay that extra fine. If you were late for that appointment, we have to learn time management, but, it's definitely becoming more apparent to me how dangerous the streets are getting and how careless folks are driving. And I really hope that, people learn a lesson from this being proactive rather than reactive. So it's just my little piece about speeding.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I'd just like to say that I agree. I do get complaints throughout the entire city on a fairly regular basis, unfortunately, and I'm kind of excited to see this report coming from staff. So thank you to them for putting it together to see what we can do beyond trusting those just to slow down. So with that, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? That is carried, none opposed. And next up, 8C, we have Tim Dukes, Executive Director of Operation Sharing, and has asked for 10 minutes and have granted the extra time. So, Mr. Dukes, welcome.
Your Worship, Council, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I apologize if I talk too fast, but it's imperative that I get through this. I come here today to speak to you on behalf of the current opportunity that has been brought to Woodstock through the BFF funding and our current homeless structure and strategies. Our current strategies and facilities are failing our community. Our system that is set up to assist the unhoused, the living poor, the working poor, mentally ill, addicted in Woodstock, all of Oxford County is leaving families starving and costing individuals their lives due to ineffective care and process. Our current first step to recovery with our shelter and our intake system is run through 3 separate facilities. These are just some of the problems with this setup. Twice a day, individuals are forced to move between facilities with all of their belongings. Twice a day, individuals are required to check in, check out. Twice a day, the facility that these individuals access for assistance and support become private property, and now these said individuals are now trespassing. This situation not only causes heartache due to more abandonment, non-compassion, confusion, and untrust, but it also puts a strain on our Woodstock police, as the churches where our facilities are located have the right to have active programs and the use of their church outside of Operation Sharing hours. Showers are located at only 1 facility. 30 people can have a shower each day with a full occupancy of 55. That's 25 individuals that can't have a shower even if they wanted to. There's no bathroom privacy as washrooms are time limited due to high usage. There's no bedroom privacy as we sleep 30 people per room an arm's length away. Female occupants with traumas involving abuse and trafficking being forced to sleep in rooms with 25 to 30 male occupants. We do have long-term agreements with the county that can create sustainability. A single facility shelter will allow us to use these funds more effectively. Currently, we pay 3 separate rents. Our required number of employees and hours is so high because of staffing 3 facilities as opposed to 1. The cost of how we're doing things is so out of control, and it can instantly be fixed if we bring these funds under 1 roof. Even with this funding from the county and the massive support that we get from this community, I would foresee Operation Sherry maybe having 3 or 4 more years of running a day space under our current structure, as we're running a major deficit every year, and we can no longer keep up and sustain with the growth of our situation. And I don't even want to think about the consequences to our community if we were ever to lose an organization like Operation Sharing or to not promote change. I can go on and on about the barriers and the inhumane issues that we face every day, but I would like to move on. I have a little bit of data for the public, council. 60% of guests accessing shelter every day over the past 6 months are over the age of 50 years old. Individuals wanting to access our shelter or services are required approval by the county that they are residents of Oxford and not receiving shelter funds. We have processed 170 of these requests in the last year. The rapid growth of our situation calls for action now. We don't have 3 to 5 years to wait for our housing plans to catch up or decisions to be made, as we are already behind every other county and municipality by 3 to 5 years when it comes to structure and process. We have little to no control of our jurisdictions with encampments due to no adequate alternatives. We haven't reached the peak of this crisis, and not only do we not have a system, but the pieces that help create this system are being downsized, such as our food bank that was just recently downsized. Oxford County is the only county, not the only county, but one of very few counties in Ontario, and probably I would bet all of Canada, that has not taken a step to establish one of the 3 recommended first steps to recovery. Those 3 steps are a tent city, a tiny home, or a single facility shelter with wraparound supports. We have no rehabilitation center. We don't even have a post-care plan. Even if we get individuals ready for rehabilitation, here in Oxford County, if you are unhoused and successfully complete a rehab program, you are discharged to a shelter, which highly increases the risk of your relapse and even death. If you're not staying at the shelter in Woodstock, you can access lunch every day, but you have no options for regular dinners and breakfast. All of our funding and investments into homelessness, mental health, and addiction keep people homeless and unwell. These barriers do not only apply to the shelter, but with an inadequate high barrier shelter and no adequate alternatives, we are creating barriers for our law enforcement and our bylaw when trying to establish control of encampments. We added 25 more beds to the shelter this year, which is great for individuals to access a warm place in the winter. But under new case law, which states not the number of beds available, the number of accessible beds that are available. The meaning of accessible is accommodate couples, pets, and privacy. We do not. Impose rules that can be followed by individuals suffering from addiction. We do not. In a church setting as a tenant, we actually discipline addiction, which is wrong on so many levels. Accommodate mental and physical disabilities. We do not. Be a low barrier and have limited restrictions to gain entry. We do not. We need an accessible shelter to gain control and to create a true strategic plan for bylaw enforcement and the individuals requiring these services. Barry Park and Duke Street are prime examples of the barriers that we are facing when it comes to encampments. The 2 churches we use and CMHA building on weekends for shelter are all high barrier facilities. Believe in it or not, but homeless individuals do have a right to choice, and we need to create a choice that they want to say yes to. When it comes to the new BFF funding, my opinion, the pond cleanups and sidewalk option 1, the fact that this option is even in the same breath as options regarding human life, I won't even speak on it. Options 2 and 3 are housing plan options that have documented plans in place, funding provincially and federally. These options have multiple avenues for funding in place. Action and investment is already happening. Our future is being looked at and invested in. These current funds need to go towards today. They need to go towards now. We need a first step to action. That leaves us with option number 4, partnering with the county to purchase land or a facility to create new low barrier facility. This option does come with some difficulties and barriers, as do all of your high investment decisions in this room. Nothing is easy in life. And yes, the ministry has put some tight guidelines and dates on this funding, but we cannot let the level of difficulty and doubt dictate our decision to do what is right and what is necessary. Whether you are worried about the next election, loss of funding, don't fully understand mental health addiction or homelessness, or are not educated on the systematic requirements for proper treatment of homelessness, there are many people in this community, organizations, high-positioned employees of the city and county, some of which are sitting with us today in this room, that will tell you that doing nothing is not an option anymore. We did nothing in 2019 with the Hope House project. Since then, our situation has grown immensely. I can only imagine where our community would be right now if we had found a path to support that project and made it a reality. Instead, here we are 5 years later, still discussing the same thing with no action. Many great ideas brought to the table with no action. Great plans put out, no action. It is time for action. People's lives depend on it. This funding will give us that opportunity. Right now, today, our situation in Woodstock and Oxford is barely manageable. If we stay status quo for another year or two with the rapid increase of the number of individuals requiring assistance and support, we will lose control of this situation. More people will die. That is a reality. Staff turnover at the shelter is averaging a new hire every month. Workers going off on stress leave, quitting. I'm the third ED in 3 years for our shelter service. The cost of doing nothing and not evolving is literally breaking hardworking, caring people. A new facility will not only create a first step, but it will create an atmosphere of collaboration. No more silos, no more organizations doing their own things. Our community needs structure and guidance. We can use this facility to unite our city. Bring all the supports from downtown, from all over the city, centralize our care, bring it to this facility where individuals are at, instead of appointments all over the place that people may not have the means to get to regularly. We need all of us to work together, and this facility will give us that opportunity. I know we're in high hopes of the Heart Hub funding. This would be a community game changer. Even if we are successful with the funding, the Heart Hub model still requires a first step pillar for intake and readiness. There are no what ifs in this world that do not require a first step. A new shelter facility is a must. We will not win without it. We will continue to cost people their lives and keep a strain on this community. This community deserves results. You today will have that power to give us a chance, and we have to do better. And I know my time is probably up, so I will leave you with this. The decision you are going to face today is extremely difficult, and the right decision, if it is made, it will come with many hurdles to jump, but it is not impossible. The hardest situations in life always seem impossible until they're done. Great leaders do not tell us what to do, they show us. Our greatest weaknesses in life lies in giving up and finding every reason why we can't. The only way to guarantee success is to continuously try until you get it right. Do not fear the right decision today, because you cannot be wrong for trying. Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is a protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life. I hope you find the courage and strength today to be true leaders. Find the reasons why we can and have to, and blind the reasons of can't and impossible. We can't save the world, but we can save Woodstock and Oxford County. It is your sworn duty. And it starts here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Questions of council? Councillor Tate.
Yeah, just through the chair, I want to thank Mr. Dukes coming forward, and I think we should recognize Sean Shapton being here, because he was originally, when we first did the motion for the shelter, he did a lot of work. So just a couple of comments. I was the one that brought the motion forward for county for the shelter with the wardens here. Also, I'd like to recognize he seconded the motion and we worked on it. I will agree with just about everything you said. It did, the original motion was, it was to have, and we had this discussion with mental health and addiction resources 24/7. And now all this time later, it hasn't got there. And we've discussed this a number of times, but there's still no plan at the county. I recognize what you're saying. But to me, it's still a county issue and there needs to be a plan. And I think there's money at the province. If there's a plan, we submit it to the province and we get the money. But I agree with everything you're saying. I just think there's a difference thing to me where the money should go, because there's still going to be money for the shelter. It still needs to be, there needs to be a new location. We've been saying it for years. It's just, there's been no discussion. But thank you for all your work. And I do agree with your comments.
Thank you. Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Tim, for being here tonight. I think that your voice and the boots on the ground, I'm a firm believer of that. Those are the most critical voices when politicians are deciding around the healthcare and the housing crisis. So I think that everything that you've said, I value your time and your effort. And seeing as finances were touched on that, I wanted to just kind of go back to a part of your delegation specifically around finances. That if there was a magic wand and tomorrow there was a single facility shelter for operation sharing and day space, everything all in one-stop shop. With the annualized funding from the county, do you feel that those dollars could be stretched in a more sustainable way than they are being used now, obviously being spread across 3 different locations?
Through your worship. Thank you for your comments. Yes, and as I spoke upon, just alone, if we just want to talk about bringing our 3 rents down to 1, and we want to talk about the staff required to run 3 facilities as opposed to 1, there's enough savings right there alone to solidify sustainability.
Continue.
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to follow up, and with security, I would imagine it poses complex challenges funding security at all 3 locations. I just didn't know for the general public if you could touch on the security barriers that you're seeing currently.
Most definitely, through your worship. Security, as you'll notice, if you look into any shelter level in any county, it's a necessity. We deal with massive amounts of mental illness and addiction comes with outbursts, emotions. We currently operate right now with a 10-hour gap with no security, where staff and guests are more vulnerable when they're not there. We bring this under one roof where instantly security is 24/7. And probably for less money when you do the math.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I've never said that before. I'm not sure. That was the first time I went. Anyways, Mr. Dukes, thanks so much for being here. That was a very informative but impactful presentation that you gave for us this evening. I'm glad you shared a lot of that information because I think that's details that the public aren't aware of. They don't get to hear those details, and it's good for people to hear that stuff. So thank you for being here. I did want to ask you a quick question about services for young people. Is there an age cutoff for folks that are serviced through day space as well as through the shelter? If there is, what is that age?
Through your worship. Yeah, so our policies right now state 16 and over. We try to maintain 18 and over. 16 and 17-year-olds, we do our best to get them in contact with youth services as fast as possible. We hope that their stays required are 0 days every time anyone under the age of 18 comes into our facility.
And just to follow up on that, that would also apply to staying overnight in the shelter as well, that they would be, so if somebody was 16, 17 coming in, would they be taken in at the shelter, or do we have to find other spaces for them? Thinking that if there is one facility, there's space to potentially expand that for young people, because there are, I know a 16-year-old boy living on the streets right now.
Yes.
And it's a terrible thing to watch a family go through that and watch a 16-year-old kid go through that. So just curious what that looks like in our current situation versus what it could look like in the future.
Yeah, through your worship, current situation, it's not a good place for a 16 and 17-year-old kid to be. I can bring up the 18-year-old that passed in our community that was on our streets from the age of 14, and what us doing nothing did for him. I wouldn't want my 16 or 17-year-old child staying in a shelter when they're sharing a room with 30 other individuals within a new facility. Would 16 and 17 be a worry? No, because you can have a section, you can have private rooms, you can have more safety. You can take more measures to create that safety for that child. But under the current situation, it's impossible. And like I said, we do our best to ensure that that child does not have to stay with us.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Lauder.
Yes, you, through the mayor to Mr. Dukes, thank you for your information. It was very impactful. And I have one question. have you, with this being a social services issue, and it's a county responsibility, are you in, talks with the county regularly, in trying to get a permanent location, or what is the status of, I mean, this has been ongoing for a long time. And even when Sean was there, trying to get something permanent. At what stage is this at? Is there any answer on that?
Through your
Sounds
worship.
fair.
I mean, I've been in this chair for 3 months. And as you know, our human services has had a shift with new leadership. So both of our plates, I hope you can respect, are extremely full and busy gathering information where we're at, where we need to go. I am in regular contact with the county. They provide services to the shelter that are vital to what we need to do here in our city and in our county. But as far as talks go, or sit downs where we've seriously looked for locations and stuff, we have not reached that point yet, for myself personally.
And if I might be able to add, Counselor Lauder, I did ask at this past week's county council meeting specifically, because of course we're talking about budgets, so I did ask specifically, anything in the plan for shelter services, and the answer was no. Nothing is being budgeted currently at the county for that. Anyone else? Counselor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Through you, appreciate that you're here today, and we have an appointment to sit down next week and talk further, and we can get into more details. But the 3 rents that you currently pay, is that I'm assuming there's a contract, and does the county pay for that and not pay for that? Is the agreement in the county name, or is it in Operation Sharing's name? Who holds the contract?
All of our contracts are in Operation Sharing's name.
Okay. Could I ask a second question? Thank you for the clarity on that. Without identifying an address or the name of the building, have you given thought to where you think an ideal location would be for a shelter? And I don't want you to, reveal your answer. I just want
Most
to,
definitely.
does a suitable location exist in your mind?
Through your worship. If you're talking about renovations, I've thought of a couple. If you're talking about new infrastructure, I think there are a couple almost perfect spots for what we're trying to do here.
Thank you. That's an encouraging answer, that we're not up against a no or a hopeless answer. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'd like to say thank you. We get to talk on a regular basis. Unfortunately, fortunately, you come to all our social or task force for social well-being, and I thank you for that. We've certainly heard this for a while. I also want to say thank you to your staff. I mean, you got phenomenal staff. What they see on a daily basis, I couldn't imagine. Hats off to you all, and thoughts and prayers go out to keeping your own mental health where it needs to be in order to go in every day. So thank you for that. If nothing else from anyone? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No resolution is required as this presentation refers to Department Report 14G.1. And I'd like to propose to council, if I get unanimous consent, to pull it forward to discuss right now. Any objections? Seeing none, then let's pull forward 14G.1, and I'm going to ask Acting Mayor Leatherborough to come and take the chair. Please. Yes, I would like Councillor Leatherborough to come forward, take the chair so that I can be included in the debate. That's one thing with being the chair of the meetings, you can't normally debate, and I'd like to be on the floor for this one. So thank you, Councillor Leatherborough.
So we will proceed with 14G1, title Building Faster Fund, and I will look for a motion. Mayor Accioni?
Thank you. I'd like to make the motion that Woodstock City Council direct that the funding received from the Building Faster Fund be directed towards item number 4, partnering with County of Oxford to acquire a property, support the creation of a new homelessness service center, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the necessary transfer payment agreement. And further, that Woodstock City Council suspend the rules in accordance with Municipal Code Chapter 16, Procedure Section. That would be separate? Okay, then I will stop that up there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Martin? All in favor? Oh my goodness, this mic. So before we discuss, we do have Rebecca Smith in-house, who is the Acting Director of Human Services for the County of Oxford. So I would like to ask council if we would like to suspend the rules to have Rebecca Smith come forward to address any questions from members of council. If we wish to do that, I will need the 2/3 majority vote to proceed with that. Okay, so I will now call the vote to suspend the rules. I need a mover. Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Mayer. I'll now call. Question? Oh my goodness.
Do you want me to? read
Serious
it?
business. The mover was Councillor Lauder. The seconder was Mayor Accioni to suspend the rules to call on Rebecca Smith. I will now call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Rebecca Smith, would you like to come forward to the podium and members of council can volley any questions to you? Mr. Mayor is going to go first with a question.
Actually, I'd like to speak to my motion first, if I may, before asking any questions, if that's okay. Thank you. Today, I bring forward a motion that addresses what I firmly believe is one of the most significant challenges our city has faced in potentially its history, homelessness. While COVID-19 was a defining crisis in recent years, it was a truly global issue, one where we followed strict guidelines and leaned on provincial and federal supports. During my 2014 and subsequent 2018 election campaigns for city councillor, homelessness and encampments were just an emerging issue. Then came my 2022 mayoral campaign, and now it's top of mind for everyone. Not a day has gone by over the last year or more that I haven't heard from a resident, a city councillor, or one of our community partners struggling to find answers and assistance. That's one of the reasons why we started the Mayor's Task Force for Social Wellbeing. I see work being done from our provincial and federal partners, but we need to take action today to make a difference on our streets, in our parks, and in our community. The Building Faster Fund was designed to empower municipalities to take swift, decisive action to address pressing challenges. We were given very clear items we can spend this money on. For us, in my opinion, there is no challenge more urgent than the growing homelessness crisis. This isn't just a statistic or a budget line. It's a human issue. It's about individuals, mothers, fathers, sons and daughters who have nowhere to turn and are struggling under circumstances we cannot ignore. And as we've heard from Mr. Dukes, Director, of course, of Operation Sharing, it is only getting worse. I know the argument may come up that social services are an upper tier responsibility. And though I don't normally argue with that, as I also sit as a county councillor, I strongly believe we have been offered this Building Faster Fund money to make a real difference. Not to simply clean a storm sewer management pond or one of the other options staff have offered, being able to complete with the tight timelines given. By the province giving us such strict timelines, I believe this forces us as a city and our county partners to stop talking and address this right away. It won't be easy to find a spot, but after conversations with city and county staff, it is possible if we work together. Partnering with the County of Oxford to acquire a property for a low-barrier homelessness service center is not just about providing shelter. It's about providing dignity. It's about creating a space where individuals can access the support, stability, and resources they need to begin rebuilding their lives. A low-barrier approach ensures that services are accessible to everyone, including those who often fall through the cracks due to mental health challenges, addictions, and other barriers. This center would also drastically reduce the strain on our community partners, emergency services, hospitals, and law enforcement, which are often left to respond to the consequences of homelessness rather than addressing its root cause. It will provide a centralized, compassionate approach to connecting individuals with housing, counseling, and job resources. We cannot tackle this issue alone. By collaborating with the county, we leverage shared expertise, funding, and infrastructure to create a solution that will benefit the entire region. This partnership ensures that we maximize the impact of every dollar, creating a sustainable long-term solution to one of the most pressing challenges of our time. I urge each of you to support this motion because the decisions we make today will define the future of our city. I strongly believe in a housing first philosophy. This isn't just about bricks and mortar, it's about people. It's about showing that Woodstock is a city that cares deeply for its residents, that we are willing to make bold, compassionate decisions, and that we won't turn our backs on those who need us the most. Let us stand together and take this critical step toward addressing homelessness in our city. We can work together with our county partners and stop pointing fingers on who does what. The timelines required of us will now ensure we get this done as soon as possible instead of continually talking about this issue. I promise I won't stop advocating as a mayor at all levels of government, as there are many factors at play. But giving everyone a warm and safe place to sleep is something we can do here in our community, working together. Thank you all for considering this motion.
Councillor Martin?
Thank you. As the seconder, I wanted to speak to my reasons for seconding the motion. And I appreciate the effort that you've put into your comments, Mayor Accioni. A year and a half ago, we sat here and worked on our strategic plan, and we plowed through some really complex goals and ideals. And one of the new initiatives that ended up landing on the strategic plan was to partner to support the development of a campus of services around addiction, mental health, and transformational housing. And a year and a half ago, I had no idea how we were going to accomplish that. Because it is such an enormous task. But I feel like today we are faced with the opportunity to actually see this goal achieved. I think Mr. Duke said that, you know, we have pursued a heart hub. We may be successful in that, and we may not. But the steps that we are talking about taking today, whether we get a heart hub or not, will complement that service because they are both desperately needed. The Building Faster Fund money is about $1.99 million. We've spent hundreds of thousands already in response. Our cost to policing, our cost to fire calls, ambulance costs have gone up, calls are up 10%. Encampment cleanup, $100,000 for one encampment alone, and there's dozens more out there. We could burn through $1.99 million and achieve nothing if we remain responsive rather than proactive in our approach. And so I look forward to this discussion, but happy to second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, again, I get maybe a question more of clarification to the CAO. The Building Faster Fund monies, could they be used for something like cleaning up encampments or other sort of funds that might be coming across the city? Or what is the best way to define what the Building Faster Fund it can be used for besides what's sort of in our report and our options here presented today?
Madam Chair, through to Councillor Schadenberg, the Building Faster Fund program guidelines are extremely prescriptive. The funds could not be used for the cleanup of encampments because it can only be used for infrastructure that supports net increase of new housing or operating or capital costs associated with affordable housing or capital costs only for the development of a homelessness service center. Those are the very narrow categories for which the city can file projects with the province with this investment plan that's required of us.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer?
Just for clarification, we're allowed to ask questions of Ms. Smith. I feel bad, you're just standing there. So through you, Chair, to Ms. Smith, thank you for being here this evening because I think it's very important and crucial for council to have you here to answer some questions for us. I did have an opportunity to run some things by you today and just have some conversations. So I know this is a tight deadline, timeline. We can look at that and debate that over and over and over again. But in your current moving into this role, I'm sure that this is some learning has come along with this as well for you. But just from a county perspective, are there locations, are there spaces out there currently right now within Woodstock that have been looked at, that haven't been looked at, that are being considered, not being considered? Is that something that we're able to even talk about at this point?
Through the chair to the question. So I will be honest, there are not specific properties at this point, but I will say it is certainly something that's been looked at in the past. I do believe moving forward, the location along with the costs associated with the capital for the shelter are really the biggest things in terms of pushing things forward. So the willingness to work together to find a location is really a key component of new shelter space, I will say. So regardless of maybe us having a specific property in mind at this time, it's the willingness of both parties to work together to find something that we can mutually agree upon, because of course, there's going to be NIMBYism. I think that's important to share. And it needs to be in the proper location where we have services available to the individuals that will be using the shelter. So the location is quite a complex thing. I do want to say that, but I do believe that if we're all working together to find a location that kind of helps the situation, we're all somewhat happy with it. I think that's one of the bigger barriers. So while we don't have something now, the willingness to at least work towards something together is a big step in my mind.
Councillor T?
Yeah, through the chair, so I don't have a question. I just have a statement. I'm not going to support the motion. I find it interesting that the motion I made over 4 years ago for this shelter, nothing's moved forward. We've had numerous conversations and I've advocated a number of times at county council and still nothing. So we're 2 years into this term, there's still been no conversation anywhere about it. So if we didn't have this $2 million coming from the city, would we be having this conversation? I don't know, but I've brought it up a number of times and nothing's moved forward. I'm very confident in our new acting director, hopefully director, of the skills that she brings forward. And as we always said, Woodstock and county will be working together. There were two options that I could support, and both of them are Woodstock City options. So my number one option is the Pittock Park urbanization project, and the field work for base plans could begin immediately. Woodstock received the money because of the homes that were built in Woodstock. Woodstock taxpayers will now be on the hook for all new maintenance to roads, sewers, any services associated with all this new housing, police, fire, ambulance, as mentioned. We have received the capital budget and will note the asset management in the budget. Existing owned facilities, fleet, roads, all need attention. While I fully support the shelter, as I've noted a number of times, is very important need in the community. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. I'm glad that it's coming back up again. because I've been yelling about it and it's not getting anywhere. But no building has been agreed upon or even discussed. It's a county responsibility, and while I realize there's only one taxpayer, it is a county service. County services, we only pay a percentage. City stuff, we pay 100% on the taxpayer. I spoke to the MPP's office when I did the research before I brought the motion to county for the shelter, and was informed, once you come up with a detailed plan, you can submit it to the province for extra funding. And I fully expect, with the expertise that we have, that once a plan is developed, location decided, that will happen. If we give away this $2 million, we're taxing our taxpayers twice. Woodstock taxpayers need the relief on their tax bill. Our taxes in this city are extremely high, and as I keep saying, the continued increase on the Woodstock taxpayers becoming unsustainable and unbearable for the homeowner. People's taxes are paid for with after-tax income. I'm also hearing more and more that taxpayers being disillusioned with council because they feel their voice isn't getting heard. So we have $2 million that could directly impact the taxpayer in Woodstock. And so the only two projects I can support are the Woodstock ones. So I know we're under a tight deadline. So once again, the taxpayer has no say into what we're doing. And we're going to throw this money to the county, which I'm sure they're thrilled about, but it doesn't directly go 100% to our base. I was actually surprised that the county projects were even on the list because it's always been clearly communicated, the jurisdictional boundaries between the city and the county responsibilities. So while I acknowledge the county should be very happy to see it on the list, and I'm glad that discussion is taking forward, I can't support it for the taxpayers of Woodstock, and I would like a recorded vote.
Through you to Miss Rebecca Smith, I have a question. Would you be able to tell council how many dollars are earmarked from the County of Oxford for a new shelter? Or a ballpark figure?
So just for clarification, if I can, are you speaking about operating or capital dollars?
In the possibility of a new shelter, are there funds, first of all, are there funds earmarked? And how much funds would be earmarked for a project like that? I should have been more specific.
So to that question, as of right now, we are going through budget proceedings and there is not capital funds set aside for a shelter. And I think that we've had some clarification at the last county budget meeting. So at this time, there wouldn't be funds that are set aside specifically for capital. That would have to be a county council decision in the event that a resolution obviously comes from today to move forward with something like that.
Mayor Accioni?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Smith, for being here, of course. Really appreciate your support and everything else. I want to be clear, if this motion is successful today, I will be making a motion for it at County Council for, of course, along the same lines as a partnership, setting funds aside for a new proposal that goes. I'm not naive. I'm not expecting 1.99 million to cover the cost of it. That's why this is just a base to help the county get there and county council decide how much money they want to put towards it. There's no argument for me normally. You know, the area of jurisdictions enforce. I agree with Councillor Tate. I mean, this is clear typically for a county jurisdiction. We have a real change here to help the citizens of Woodstock, and that's why I'm making this forward. This is affecting residents of the city of Woodstock. Every single day we're hearing from our residents. They're driving by, they're seeing it, they're hearing it in their backyards. So to think this isn't affecting our residents is false in my mind. I will be pushing at county as a heads up, and I know we talk on a regular basis, and I appreciate that. I guess the question is, with the county budget talks right now, is there a possibility of funding with a successful county council vote to have dollars assigned to a project of this scope, in your opinion?
Through the chair.
Add it to the budget, yeah.
Bit of a loaded question, I
Yeah.
will say. So I will say ultimately county council
I know it's a
decision.
county
Yeah.
council vote, of course.
Just maybe give a little bit of background. So there is a base budget of $3 million per year for affordable housing. Typically, we do allocate that to obviously affordable housing builds, similar to the Dundas Street project. That's actually one of the options that's in the report. That is an open RFP and kind of set aside for a future project. In the event that county council wanted to make a decision to kind of shift some funds around, of course, that's in their purview, but of course, we're also going into budget discussions as well. So I think I'd defer that to budget talks at county council, of course, but there is some money earmarked for affordable housing next year. I will say that.
Okay, and just for the general public's knowledge, that is $1.5 million already that you're referring to.
Yeah, through the chair, that was what was put in budget.
Thank you.
Councillor Lauder.
Thank you through the chair to Ms. Smith. Thanks for coming tonight. I understand there's supposed to be a homeless plan started. At what state is it at? Is it still just being started, or are we getting any further on this to getting something in place to help this, the operation sharing and so on?
Through the chair, to Councillor Lauder. So the homelessness response strategy is a plan that was started as a new initiative in the 2024 County Council budget. Really, the goal of that plan was to get some things in place to really have a better response to homelessness and the entire system as a whole. It wasn't specific to emergency shelter. It was really looking at the system as a whole to really make those pathways maybe a little bit easier for an individual to kind of flow through in a way. So that plan actually came to County Council in the form of a workshop about a month ago, if I have my timelines right. Really seeking the feedback from our County Council representatives to ensure that that went into the plan. The idea of the permanent shelter did come up through those discussions, so it certainly is going to be woven into that homelessness response strategy. But at this time, it has not come back to County Council for consideration. I would expect something probably earlier in the new year, but we do have to do some more fulsome consultation, I would say, with kind of all of the stakeholders that are involved in the homelessness service system, because it is very expansive. I will say the system is growing. So at this time, to make my long answer shorter, I would think probably March of 2025, we should have something more concrete in terms of actions.
Continue, Councillor Lauder.
I also will not be supporting this motion. As I understand, the county has been working on a homeless plan. There has been no discussion on location. In speaking with Ms. Smith, there has been no dialogue with the county regarding a location. This is a timing issue. This money came at this time. If it had been time that we could have spent looking for a place and getting more in, it could have been a different answer that I would give. It's great to receive this money. I prefer the option one with the Pitt Park plan, which would benefit all taxpayers in the city of Woodstock. Projects that are in the capital budget would not have to be debentured at the expense of the citizens. This announcement only came to the city last week. The public has not had a chance to weigh in on this. Don't get me wrong, I do support the partnering with the county, and the sooner that is done, the better. Possibly there could be 3 councillors from our city and 3 councillors from the county that work together and bring something back to us. A committee of such that work together and bring something concrete back that we can all agree on. So due to that, I will not support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Through the chair. I've heard a couple of comments tonight that I just wanted to ask for some clarification, Ms. Smith. I've heard no location, no discussion, no action, and you have indicated that there isn't a short list of locations right now that the county is exploring for a new shelter. But over the last couple of years, have locations been explored?
I may through the chair. I just want to note a bit of a leadership change in human services. I know some properties have been discussed previously. I will say, again, the location is very difficult, but I wouldn't say it takes time for everything. And I just want to say the restriction, like there are some pretty strict timelines on this, but realistically, the way to kind of get through those is if we're all collectively working together. The shelter location is obviously going to be very hot topic for the residents of Woodstock along with the county. So while there maybe haven't been some very recent discussions, I know it has been discussed obviously in the past. So if the motion is passed to move forward with the shelter, of course, that's what we need to proceed to do.
Further comments or questions? Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, it might be a difficult question, but from the chair through to, I guess, the engineering department, Mr. DeHaan. We had a goal of 403 units for 2023 and reached 475. So as the report says, that was 118% of what the goal was. And we know that every time there's an ARU built or even a 10-story apartment building with 10 apartments on each floor, that's 100 units right there. But as far as building permits go for 2024, do you guess that we're expecting any sort of goal reached for this year as far as getting more money from the Better Building Faster Fund?
Your worship, your worship through the counselor. I don't off the top of my head remember what the exact goal was for this year, but we are behind what we were last year.
Through to the CAO.
Madam Chair, through to Councillor Schadenberg. Our housing target for 2024, I believe, is 550 housing units, and the current housing construction market has changed dramatically from 2023. As of the end of October, we had only issued permits for 115 housing units. The province counts housing starts, which are different than permits for housing units. So 115 won't be the number, but it's a low enough number to fairly confidently say we will not hit our target for 2024.
Just to follow up the point therefore I'm trying to make is if we decide to give 1.99 million to the county this year for possibly purchasing land or purchasing a building or something to be renovated or retrofitted, my guess is that might be a one-time only, even though we've made a pledge to the province of Ontario by 2031 to build 5,500 units. In theory, it could be a one-time only amount given to the county for such a project.
Councillor Tate?
Yeah, sorry, just through the chair, a question for the CAO. So the public is aware there's very strict guidelines and a timeline. So because there's been I won't say no discussion, because there's been nothing planned, there's nothing in the budget, the county, et cetera, et cetera. If we don't meet the deadline, what happens to the 1.9 million?
Madam Chair, through to Councillor Tate, there's several deadlines, and if you're referring to the March 31, 2026 deadline for expensing building faster funds on a project that has been approved by the province through this investment plan, the program requirements say the province will claw that money back after that day if they have not been expensed.
Any further comment, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm glad that was brought up because that is a big reason for this push. We do have to, as council knows, we have to put a decision in by November 29th of this year. So there hasn't been a whole lot of time on this. And I thank staff for coming forward with what ideas we could use this money for. But let's be clear, nothing on the list was planned to be done next year. That's part of the issue. So all of this can be can be a rush and we don't know if it would get done. The proposal is forward as the idea being seed money for us to fix a problem that we've all agreed and all unanimously decided was a strategic priority. And that's why I brought this forward and hoping for majority of support.
Counselor Tate.
Just through the chair, let's not mislead the public. The one option is ready to go, and it was on the books for next year, and it was going to be debentured. So the one city one is ready to go, and it will be finished. I get you're really passionate about this, but let's be fair, that one is ready to go.
Are there any further comments, questions? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Just more of a general comment. I mean, we've talked many times about taxes and what that's going to look like, but I also think it's important to remember that the longer we let this go, the more impact it still has on our taxes. We're paying for policing, ambulance, EMS, fire, the encampment cleanups alone, and that's only going to get worse if more people are being forced to not have a shelter to go into or having a space to go into. So I think it's important to keep in mind that that still is going to impact the citizens of our community, and they're still going to see that impact in their tax dollars because we have to pay for those things. And if there's one thing I hear over and over and over and over again, it is the issues of homelessness and what is happening on our streets. That would be the thing that I think I have brought to me the most.
Counselor Schadenberg.
Yeah, a question of clarification therefore to our Human Services Department rep there. Currently in the city of Woodstock on an annual basis, how much, if any, dollars are allocated to lodgings outside of Operation Sharing's facility to, as they say, put a roof over someone's head who say isn't in a facility already owned by the province or by the county of Oxford, say on Pavey Street or Carn or anywhere else for that matter, because there's certainly dollars that go towards motel type lodgings.
Through the chair to Councillor Schadenberg. I don't want to give you a wrong number, but maybe I'll provide a bit of background on the funding that's kind of in that pool of funding. So there is $2.9 million of homelessness prevention funding that comes from the province. A lot of that does go to kind of our emergency shelter services, and then a lot of community partners who are really providing those kind of wraparound supports in the community. A portion of that also covers motel and hotel stays, particularly over the winter months. So I don't want to give you a false number, but we do that in addition to the existing emergency shelters that are available, really depending on the need, and it really does depend on kind of the weather as we approach winter months. So that is in addition to some of the existing services, but it it's certainly not bigger than what the emergency shelters look like now.
I just felt it was important that we got the answer to that question throughout our debate here, but I certainly will add myself to the list of people who will not be supporting the motion that is presented.
Any further comments or questions? I'm seeing none, so as the chair, I cannot debate, but I have some comments to express. Thank you, Rebecca. You're welcome to sit down at now. I will be supporting this motion. I think that this is a unique opportunity for our community. I think that there's a lot of conversation and debate around jurisdictional scans, but I believe it was the last term of council that did identify something like physician recruitment as being a strategic priority. And now we annually budget for that physician recruitment program. And physician recruitment could very well be justified within the provincial jurisdiction. But I do think that this is a unique opportunity for the city of Woodstock to partner with the county of Oxford. I think that we all around this horseshoe collectively want our community to be healthy and we want our community to be well. We may all come to a solution from a different perspective, but I am holding on to that tightly, that is in fact what we want. And these are unprecedented times. I look at this as an opportunity that if this doesn't go forward, what if the county of Oxford comes to us with a planning application and our residents say, we don't want that. we vote down that planning application, are we prepared to vote against the County of Oxford when we're supposed to be working together to find solutions? So I do think that it's important for our community to step forward to this unique opportunity. When I look out to the gallery, I do think of a lot of people that put their hearts on the line. And I also think that coldest night of the year, which originated in Woodstock, which was to generate funds for the inn and out of the cold. This is an annualized fundraiser that is so critical for Woodstock. Imagine the messaging was that the city of Woodstock and the county of Oxford are going to find a better, more sustainable, barrier-free shelter. And that was what the hundreds of people in Woodstock were rallying towards and fundraising for. Or what if that also was the messaging to some of our very generous donors in this community of, let's put our name on a wellness room. Let's put our name on how people can have a safe space, to sleep at night if it is youth. But ultimately, I think we all want our community to get healthy, and I'm certainly very concerned of what direction we're going in. I think the number of encampments that are both vacant and active that we're seeing through our parks department, through frontline services, social agencies, everybody that is that touching point of connection, I think it is very telling that our service within shelter is not working. It's not adequate, and it's not for the lack of trying. So my comments are that I'm just going to read the motion one more time for my clarification, and that it is a recorded vote, so I will pass it over to Madam Chair. But the motion on the floor is that the Woodstock City Council direct that the funding received from the Building Faster Fund be directed towards 4, partnering with the County of Oxford to acquire a property to support the creation of a new homelessness service center, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the necessary transfer payment agreement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We start with the mover of the motion, Mayor Accioni.
Yes.
Councillor Lauder.
No.
Councillor Leatherbarrow.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Schadenberg.
No.
Councillor Tate.
No.
And Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Yes.
That motion carries 4-3.
Mr. Mayor will now resume in the chair.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Councillor Leatherborough. I do think we've just made a big step today. Let me catch up. We were at. Okay. Next up, we're at 9, consideration of planning reports. 9A, OP 22-05-8 and ZN 8-22-05, application for official plan amendment. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This is a official plan amendment and zone change to allow for the development of a 9-unit residential building. The lands are at the corner of Cedar Street and Wilson Street. The special zoning would recognize the existing lot frontage, which is at the northern part of the property. Staff are satisfied that the property otherwise has significant frontage on Wilson Street and Cedar Street, as well the property or the proposals providing all required parking. The medium density policies respecting new locations in this case has been met, as the proposals on arterial road and is located in close proximity to both the downtown and commercial uses on Norwich Avenue. For this reason, staff recommend the applications be supported.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Seeing none, thank you. Looking for a motion on the floor? Councillor Leathermore?
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council advise County Council that the city supports the application to amend the official plan, file number OP 22-05-8, submitted by 10000498811 Ontario Inc. for lands legally described as Plan 63, lots 1 and 2, East South Wilson, parts lots 1 and 2, North South Francis, City of Woodstock, to redesignate the subject lands to medium-density residential to facilitate the development of a 9-unit multiple attached dwelling building on the subject lands. And further, that City Council approve in principle the zone change application, file number ZN 8-22-05, submitted by 10000498811 Ontario Inc. for lands legally described as Plan 63, lots 1 and 2, East South Wilson, part lots 1 and 2, North South Francis, in the city of Woodstock, to rezone the lands to special residential zone 3 R3-SP to facilitate a 9-unit multiple attached dwelling building with reduced lot frontage and alternative location of parking areas. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Shattenberg? Questions or discussions? Counselor Tate?
Yeah, just through the chair, I'd just like to thank the planner. And I'm happy to see that the applicant finally had something to come forward. He's been working on a long time, and the planner worked very well with him because there was a number of different designs. So happy to see this come forward.
Yes, I agree. Anyone else? Counselor Shattenberg?
Yeah, I just wanted to add this building at 117 Wilson Street has had a sort of a long history within the city of Woodstock. In fact, at one point in time, it was the Women's Emergency Center as well, which of course now is today's DASO on James Street. So it certainly has serviced itself well, and now is the number of bachelor apartments and 1-bedroom apartments that will be existing within this 117 Wilson will be of a benefit to people looking for housing and apartments. And I did want to sort of say that one people not, there's a long Ontario Inc. number, but one people might not realize that the applicant owner over there does work with the city of Woodstock and even the county of Oxford to some degree with what's called the Huron House in Woodstock to supply transitional housing in the city. So he's a very good corporate citizen of the city.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, I think this is going along with what we were talking about, to have affordable homes and places. 1-bedroom and bachelor apartments are greatly needed here in the city of Woodstock. So excited to see this plan come forward and make it work in the footprint that's there. Anyone else before I call the vote? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. I did declare a conflict on this next one, so I'm going to ask Acting Mayor Leatherbarrel to please come forward and take the chair again.
Perfect. So now we will move on to 9B, OP 23-11-8, SB 23-06-8, and ZN 8-23-18 applications for official plan amendment, draft plan of subdivision and zone change 2729902 Ontario Inc. And Mr. Gilbert will provide us with a presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is an industrial plan of subdivision proposed immediately adjacent to the city's industrial subdivision on just east of the 401 north side of Dundas. The lands are currently in agricultural production. The proposed plan of subdivision would have 6 industrial blocks with 1 service commercial block that would be next to Highway 2 but have no access to Highway 2 due to MTO policies that restrict access in proximity to Highway 401. The official plan amendment would redesignate the site from business park to traditional industrial for the industrial block shown in blue, service commercial for the highway commercial block, and additional environmental and buffer areas that would coincide with the findings of the environmental impact study. I note that this draft approval has more conditions than we typically see, I believe 69. But that relates to the complexity of the site, the proximity to Highway 401, as well as the close coordination required with the city through the development of their own industrial plan. There's no access to the site apart from through the city's industrial park, as well as servicing will be closely tied with the city's industrial park. And there's a number of conditions that address those requirements. The only additional uses requested in the zoning for the highway commercial zone would be a tourist information center and they've reduced or removed any residential use on that service commercial area to ensure that the industrial land uses are not compromised by the sensitive use. Staff are supportive of the applications and recommend that they be supported.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the planner? Seeing none, thank you. I'll now look for a motion. Counselor Lauder,
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application file number ZN 8-23-18 submitted by the 2729902 Ontario Inc. for lands described as Part Lot 9, Concession 1, Blandford, to rezone the lands from agriculture AG to Special General Industrial Holding Zone M3-48H, Special Highway Commercial Holding Zone C4-57H, Environmental Protection Zone 1, EP1, and Environmental Protection Zone 2, EP2, to facilitate a proposed draft plan of subdivision for industrial and service commercial purposes. And further, that the City Council advise County Council that the city supports the application for official plan amendment, file number OP 23-11-8, submitted by the 2729902 Ontario Inc. for lands described as Part Lot 9, Concession 1, Blandford, to redesignate the lands from business park to traditional industrial and service commercial. And further, that City Council advise County Council that the city supports the application for draft plan of subdivision, plan number SB 24-06-8, submitted by the 2729902 Ontario Inc. for lands described as Part Lot 9, Concession 1, Blandford, subject conditions 1 through 69 outlined in the report.
thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Counselor Martin, discussion? Seeing none, I'll now call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Mr. Mayor will now resume in the chair.
Thank you again. So it brings us to consideration of correspondence, and 10A homelessness, mental health, safety, and addiction crisis has correspondence was withdrawn. So it brings us to 10B, Woodstock Public Library Board year-end surplus carryover. Looking for a motion? Councillor Martin?
That Woodstock City Council authorizes the Woodstock Public Library Board to carry over the 2024 year-end surplus into the board's salaries reserves.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Leatherborough? Discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. Presentations from staff and approved agents. So 11A, Ms. Campbell, Director of Administrative Services. Artem's coming forward. Okay. Thank you. Welcome. Sorry, I read your name first.
Slides should come up.
Waiting for the back room to allow the slide, I assume?
Yes, so I can start.
There we go.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. On behalf of your administration, we are delighted to present the staff recommended 2025 capital budget and the 2026 and the 2029 forecast capital plan. This hopefully concise presentation will be a team effort. I'll provide a high-level overview of the proposed spending, and Ms. Campbell, our Director of Administrative Services, will provide details on financing this proposed program. No decision is made regarding this budget at tonight's meeting. The council is called a special budget meeting on Tuesday, November 6th, and Thursday, November 28th, if required, to review the proposed budget in detail. Budget meetings are always open to the public. They will also be live streamed for those who prefer to watch from the comfort of their home. The plan is to adopt the 25 capital program along with any amendments at the next regular meeting of the City Council on December 12th. It is important to remember that the council will only approve projects included in the 2025 program, not the forecast years. The proposed capital budget and related documents are uploaded to the city website for public access under Budgets and Financials page. For a quick overview, as you can see, the proposed 25 capital program in total, which includes the sewer and water projects that are funded by the Oxford County user fees, is just over almost $61 million. It is a significant jump from the prior year, and it's mainly due to the Northeast Industrial Park development. Our own purpose spending, which includes everything other than the county sewer and water projects, is just over $43.7 million. And again, it's a significant jump from last year, but it is due to the Northeast Park development. For 26 to 29 capital plan, it shows significant spending pressures over the 4 years. In those 4 years, the total estimated cost of projects, including sewer and water, is just over 310 million, and our own spending is over 283 million. And this 283 represents roughly $70 million a year over the next 4 years. I think it's just an average. Out of those 283 million, the 180 million represents covered by 5 projects that are of significant value. And we'll go over some of them in this presentation. So for the quick overview again, here's a breakdown of the capital spending for 25, and it divides the projects that are spent on the upkeep of the current assets in a good state of repair versus spending dollars on the growth-related projects or new assets. So this year, it's 87% being applied to keep what we own in a good repair versus investing in the new assets. This ratio is not bad, and it's much higher than last year's at 70%. And although the proposed budget includes an increase in non-growth related projects for 25, that's not always possible in times of rapid growth. And speaking of keeping existing assets in good repairs, here's a proposed road renewal program for 2025. So road resurfacing is essentially shave and pave. It's a superficial type of work, and it can only be done when the underground infrastructure, such as water lines and sewer lines, are in good condition. Road resurfacing prolongs the life of the road and is a good investment. Road reconstruction, on the other hand, is a complete rebuild of the road, and it typically includes repairs or replacement to the underground sewer and water lines. The surface asphalt is only associated with the road reconstruction, and it is the final year of asphalt on roads that have been reconstructed the year before. And as the slide shows, there's a slight shift in dollar spent from the road resurfacing towards road reconstruction. compared with the 24 budget. And it's based on our asset management plan and road needs study. This trend most likely to continue over the next few years. So downtown revitalization. This is one of the significant projects in the budget and the forecast. With the total over the 5 years of 24.9 million. In 25 alone, it's 2.9 million. And since this whole project for now is solely financed by debt, the total cost with the interest is estimated to be over $40 million. The phase one of this project was approved in 24 budget. The contract is awarded and the construction is set to begin in the spring of 2025. Now we'll move into the building projects. It's a quick summary of some of the projects for 2025. There's no new building proposed in 25, and most projects is to maintain our current building inventory. And looking at the forecast years, there's significant, a few significant projects, including the expansion of the City Hall, which still remains to be seen how long we can defer that expansion. In the past, the council has approved the renovation of the West End Market building. This work is complete and some staff have moved into that building. The expansion project can be brought forward or pushed back in the future budget proposals, depending on how much capacity we can get out of the market center. Some additional projects listed as the an additional fire hall, substation, and the expansion of the police station. For parks and recreation, one significant project is it's a multi-year project is the Southside Park expansion. In 25, there's $250,000 set aside with additional $1 million over the following 2 years. And these funds are to improve the acquired lands, formerly known as the Don's Cedar Grove Golf Course. It's between Parking Center Road and the Juliana Drive. And this project will continue with the trail development, tree planting, bridge crossing, among other improvements. The one other project that is not listed on this slide for 2025 is the Museum Square improvements. And this project is to improve the usability and accessibility of the gravel portion of the Museum Square where the former Dairy Capital cheese shop used to be. And the work is to create more friendly surface for pedestrians, strollers, and other conveniences from its current condition. And looking at the forecast years, there's a few significant projects, such as additional ball diamonds, basketball court, and lighting improvement at the cricket pitch. Now, the industrial land development, this is another large project. Over the forecast years, it's over $75 million. And the first note I want to make is the financing for this project is proposed to come from the land sales and not the taxpayer. This work will only proceed as funds become available in the Industrial and Land Reserve Fund. In order to use the seed sufficient investment in the Northeast Industrial Park, we need to get it to a point where we can start selling land to continue financing the balance of the land development. And for 2025, the work would include stormwater management pond, our own share of the water and sanitary installation, and the phase one of the earthworks. The one project there is the intersection improvement of the Patula and Highway 59. However, this work will not be undertaken until the boundary adjustment with the Township of Norwich is complete. And currently, its stated work is for 26 and 27. And for my last slide, there's a few projects for the fire department. And the one thing I want to mention is when the new substation is approved, the fire department will need a new fire engine. At the current prices of about 1.1 million. By the time we get to actually acquiring it, the price most likely will go up. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Campbell.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. Is that volume okay? Okay. I'm going to be providing some additional details on the financing of the capital budget. But before I get started, I just want to take a few moments again to discuss the asset management plan and the information that's in the front of the budget that we've provided for the last several years. Most recent AMP we produced was approved by council in June this year, and it was the first one to include all of the city's infrastructure assets. Actually, all of the assets, not just the infrastructure. And as a result, there's a few extra report cards included in the front of the book. The information is similar to last year. It is not 100% comparable just due to the reorganization and expansion of the asset categories to include the non-core infrastructure. The replacement values do fluctuate as we get new information. Costs and inflation are factored into our data, and it also causes differences in the infrastructure funding gaps year over year. We're always working to improve our data, and during 2024, we have been working with a consulting group on a building study for our facilities. The early findings coming out of this report are that there will be a considerable replacement value increase in both the corporate facility and rec and culture categories, as they both include a significant number of buildings. With respect to the report cards, the transportation and stormwater categories have actually stabilized over the last year. They're reported with an asset condition of good, but the newer categories, the corporate facilities, recreation and culture, both report as fair, while fleet reports poor. So in most cases, the current funding levels are not sufficient to keep up these ratings. And the different grades that we are seeing are highlighting the difficulties that we encounter when we're trying to prioritize the spending and identify opportunities to reduce the gap, which is actually what is envisioned with the asset management plan. And as you'll see as you go through the forecast, it definitely reflects the infrastructure gaps and also the condition of the assets. The AMP will be updated once more in 2025. Thereafter, we'll complete an annual review of the asset management process and an update every 5 years. Overall, this year, we've experienced improved procurement timeline for the most part, although we've still got some delivery delays with the larger vehicles and some equipment. Inflation is subsiding, but it seems to have left higher costs in its wake. There were several in-year council reports requesting additional funding through the year, and also there will be carryovers again coming in December, similar to 2023, but maybe not quite as many. It's anticipated that we'll likely recommend again that any 2024 operating budget surplus be allocated to the capital program. So with respect to the actual financing of the budget, as Mr. Wojtkowski mentioned, the budget is showing $61,363,000. I said that right? $61,363,000. It is quite large. There's a large project for the Northeast Industrial Park, and there's also a considerable amount of county included in that for water and sanitary sewer. It's a very close number, actually, to the 2024 approved budget when you include the downtown phase 1 that was in late inclusion in March earlier this year. So with respect to the proposed funding, capital out of revenue is coming in at around $4.48 million. That's the amount that's raised directly in the revenue fund budget and contributed to the capital program. And that number is determined by formula. There's a base amount that we allocate each year. We increase that by the estimated assessment growth in 2024. We include a small portion of funding which we receive from the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, which is a minimal amount and declining. And then we also include the balance of the funds that are available from the OLG slot funding. And this year we're anticipating that based on council's policy, that's going to be almost $785,000. With respect to reserve and reserve funds, there is always fluctuations in this category simply because the funds are matched to the projects from the various funds and what we are permitted to use them for. Again, this year it's very high, 31.8 million. If we remove the Northeast Industrial Park, the spending comes in around 15 million, which is comparable to the 14 million in the prior year. We've included the reserve and reserve funds on page 19 in the front part of your budget, and some projected balances as well. We always present the budget as balanced. In 2025, it's all funded, and the shortfalls begin though through those reserve and the reserve funds as early as 2026. We will again bring reserve and reserve fund final balances for the end of 2024, likely in early Q2 in 2025. I'm just going to skip the debt for now. I have more to say about it. County water and sewer rates are going to fund $17.6 million of this budget this year. Again, a portion of the Northeast Industrial Park, and the balance are the water and sewer main projects that are part of our road reconstruction when we do the big jobs and we have to repair the infrastructure down there. They pay for the underneath, they pay for that. With respect to grants, 4.12 million that's anticipated for 2025. That's basically 3 recurring grants that we get annually. The Canada Community Building Fund, that one we just renewed with a new agreement for 10 years. There's also the dedicated gas tax for public transportation, which is used for always for transit. And then the final one is the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, which we refer to as OSIF. We have received already our OSIF and CCBF allocations for 2025, so they're included on the grant funding page, which is also on page 25. The dedicated gas tax usually doesn't come in until early in the new year, and we've just included an estimate based on past allocations. So circling back to the debt, 3.3 million in 2025 is proposed, and that's made up of $400,000 of road and $2.9 million, which is the phase 2 of the downtown redevelopment project. We always use debt as an important tool in order to finance our longer term projects, facilities usually, and larger infrastructure improvements. We use debt as a tool in order to recognize that there is benefit to future taxpayers, and we don't think it's fair that the current ratepayer pay the full cost of some of these larger projects. So debt allows us to spread it out over time. We are estimating at the end of 2024 that our outstanding debt will be 18.1 million. That's principal and interest, with principal only of about $15 million. And we've also still got 2024 debt to be issued. That won't happen until 2025. It's 9.1 million, and that will finance the Southgate Center, the Public Works Building, and something else, the Downtown Streetscape Phase 1. So that's the maximum that we would issue. Sometimes we come in under budget, and we don't need to always issue the full amount. With respect to the forecast, obviously the number is very large, $139,284,000. This represents a number of very large projects in the forecast years. These projects are all evidence that the city is growing rapidly. We use debt as a financing option, as it allows us to include in our capital project forecasts what we're envisioning council needs to know about in the coming years. It's the methodology always illustrates a worst case situation, because with respect to the financing, as the timelines get closer and the projects come nearer, we'll be searching out alternative and/or additional sources of financing. The annual debt repayment limit for the city is currently $18,262,000. That's based on the 2022 FIR. So it's actually it will be officially increased into 19 million once we receive the numbers from the province. We do update it. It is updated annually by the province, and we also have to do an estimated update every time we issue a debenture issue to make sure that we're going to stay within our limit. So the limit indicates certainly that we have a capacity to issue a significant amount of debt. And the debt included in this budget and forecast is actually within the repayment limit. However, the impact of issuing a debt of this size, it will definitely be felt in the operating budget when we have to include the repayment of interest and principal. Last year at our capital budget presentation, our discussion was focused a lot on the Bank of Canada and the increasing interest rates. We've had a turnaround since mid-year. The trend is reversed, and now we're on a downward trend again. All the estimates that I've included in this budget were based on rates that I got on November the 1st, and it's based on 3.95% for a 10-year debenture and 4.45 for 20 years. And I actually just got our 2024 debt numbers today, and we got 10-year rate is 4.07 and the 20-year rate was 4.48. So if the interest rates keep decreasing, it does positively impact our budget. And using the current rates, we indicated with some pictorial evidence in the front part of the preliminary notes, we would be repaying $13.5 million of principal and interest by 2030 if we were to issue all of the debt included in this budget. That number compares to 2.4 million in 2024. And unfortunately, the majority of that would likely come from the levy. So I'm going to defer to the clerk if I need to at this point, but for next steps with this budget process, despite the mayor issuing a direction to staff to prepare the 2025 capital budget and forecast, this is the mayor's budget. It falls under the strong mayor legislation since it was provided to council prior to February 1st. So the mayor's not actually able to delegate he can ask us to do it, but he cannot delegate the fact that it is his budget. So to start the clock on the process, the budget was provided to council members and the clerk on the 18th of November. And there's a variety of paths that can lead us to an adopted budget. It's kind of a complicated piece of complicated regulation. It includes a variety of timeframes between the steps, a lot of options to shorten steps, etc. So in order to simplify the options, I'm proposing a process just similar to what we did last year, which I think will take us on the most straightforward path to an adopted budget in December. However, council is always free to navigate this process however they wish. So what we're proposing would be that this assumes that there was going to be amendments made to this budget. We don't expect that it will be accepted as presented. So the meeting on December 12th will be day 25 of the process. So we'll accept capital budget motions prior to the meeting, which we will include on a capital budget report for December 12th. And we will also accept motions during the council meeting on the 12th. Each resolution, provided there's a motion, a mover and a seconder, would be voted on by council. And then once there's no further amendments and everybody seems to be happy with what we've agreed on, council can approve a resolution to shorten the amendment period to 25 days from the prescribed 30-day period. Once that's done, if the mayor is also satisfied with what we presented and what's been amended, he is able to provide a written direction to all members of council and the clerk to shorten his veto period from the prescribed 10-day period to 0 days. And if all of that transpired at the meeting on December 12th, then the 2025 amended capital budget would be deemed to be adopted. What this does for staff is allow them to begin to plan their 2025 capital project season. With no further council meetings scheduled in 2024, if the amendment and veto periods are not shortened, staff will be just simply waiting for the prescribed time periods to expire. Unless a special meeting of council was requested, there is no other mechanism for a council member to propose an amendment to the budget after December 12th and before the expiry of the 30-day amendment period. Ultimately, the process should be determined by council, and staff is available to support whatever resolutions you may require. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. Remind council that our detailed discussion on the budget will be on Tuesday, November 26th, beginning at 5. There'll be a number of department heads and staff on hand to answer any questions that council may have. And thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of either one of them at this point? Obviously, we will go into more detail as mentioned on Monday. So no resolution is required as this item will be discussed further at the special capital meeting budget held on Tuesday, November 26, 2024, and welcome all the public to attend. Thank you very much. No mayor's report or councillor reports tonight, but we do have some department reports, so administrative services. 14A1, application for tax relief under section 357 of the Municipal Act. Looking for a motion? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni, that Woodstock City Council directs the treasurer to cancel, reduce, or refund the taxes levied in 2024 as detailed on the attached report.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. Next up, we do have engineering, 14B1, replacement of municipal code chapter 0232, fowl, pigeons, livestock keeping. Looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council refer the draft livestock bylaw 9707-24, which replaces municipal code chapter 0232, fowl, pigeons, to the bylaw portion of the agenda, and further that Woodstock City Council authorizes staff to make the necessary application to the Ministry of the Attorney General to seek approval for the proposed short form wording and set fines associated with municipal code chapter 0232, livestock.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Leatherborough. Discussion or questions? Seeing none. Call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. I would like to thank all the staff and council members working on this. Of course, this has been discussed for a while and with some of the general public, so thank you. Next up, we have 14B.2, update on Southgate Center renovation and addition. Looking for a motion? Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the additions to the original scope of construction to the Southgate Center renovation and addition at a value of $320,916.71.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Maybe. Just a general comment. When I first read the report, at first I thought this was additional asks for funds. I reached out to staff just to clarify what was happening exactly too, because I also didn't know what NOPC stood for. So thank you to Mr. DeHaan for clarifying the acronym for me, but these are not additional funds that are being requested. This is the change of project. So I just thought it was important for folks to know that, just so there wasn't a misperception.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Nothing from Cultural Services, Parks and Rec, or Economic Development, but we do have Clerk's Department, Downtown Woodstock BIA Board Management Composition Changes. Looking for a motion, Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approve the appointments of Michaela Day, Evolutions Electronics, Holly Joe, The Kiln Room Ceramic and Art Studio, Joshua Pember, First Class First Aid, and Santina Summers, Naughty Beauty, Inc. to the Downtown Woodstock BIA Board of Management.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I'm not really sure who, if it's a comment or a question or who wants to address it. I seem to have noticed in the last 2 years, a number of resignations have happened from this board. Is that common, given that small businesses, business owners are often quite busy and we see a higher turnover rate on a BIA board? Or has this been, is there something more complex at foot here? Because we obviously want to see them to be extremely successful, but when you see a high turnover rate like this, it concerns me a little bit.
I'll just quickly add that I know a couple of the people that are retiring. Their reasons are for being busy. But I'm gonna turn it over to Councillor Leatherborough as she is on that committee if she's willing to speak to it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Martin's question. Yeah, there's been a turnover too of people that have actually served for a long time, like various council terms stretching from 5 to 8+ years. I think we have one member right now that's still on the board that served for upwards of 19 years. When we had the vacancies, there's certainly no there's a lot of interest, I should say. So that's a good thing, is that when there are vacancies, there's a lot of interest to apply for those spots. And it's a nice mix of people that have served the downtown Woodstock BIA years ago, and then also those that have started a business, entrepreneurship in the downtown. So it's a good mix of diverse businesses, I suppose I would say. So there's no real reason other than that's what comes to mind.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? We'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. From the Chief Administrative Officer, no, we've already done that. I'm sorry. Nothing from Human Resources, Fire Services, Public Works, or IT. Brings us down to nothing from Special Committee Advisory, no notice of motions, no new business, so draft bylaws. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Schadenberg, that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9707-24, a bylaw to repeal and replace the City of Woodstock Municipal Code Chapter 0232, fowl pigeons. 9720-24, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, ZN 8-23-16, Juliana Drive at Finkel Street. 9721-24, bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, ZN 82407, 385-387 Dundas Street.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions on those? All those in favor? None opposed? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading, 97024 through 9721-24 inclusive.
Thank you. Last chance. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? That is carried. None opposed. And that brings us to questions and addresses of members of council. Tonight, I'm going to start with Councillor Martin.
Well, thank you. I don't have a whole lot to say tonight, but as the weather starts to change and influenza takes hold, we do have influenza cases documented within the region. December 12th is a COVID-19 and influenza clinic that will be held at Oxford Auditorium. So for people who are looking to get their vaccination, that's the date and the place.
Thank you. Councillor Leatherborough.
I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their evening.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Message from the police. As we enter the holiday season, the Woodstock Police Services would like to remind everyone that our festive ride, Reduce Impaired Driving Everywhere programs will be in full swing from today through to January 2025. This initiative is aimed at keeping our roads safe by targeting impaired driving, which can include both alcohol and drug-related impairment. Please remember to stay safe and make responsible choices during your celebrations. If you plan on consuming alcohol or using substances, that's a hard word, ensure you have a safe alternative to get home, whether it's having a designated driver, using public transportation, or calling a cab. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, just to remind you, you have a chance to win $10,000 in the 12 days of Christmas lottery. The Southgate Center is already selling tickets for it, $25 each of the tickets. And the numbers of the prizes go incrementally up until you get to the 10,000. So December 26th, for example, the prize is $100. December 27th, it's $200, and the amount keeps going up. The Woodstock Navy Vets Junior C team has a record of 12-6, but with 3 games this weekend, they have a chance to catch Norwich for second place in their league because they're at Norwich on Friday. The next home game, though, is 7:45. They host Tavistock on Saturday, and that's their important teddy bear toss night. So if you want to bring a new unwrapped toy, like a truck or something like that, by all means, bring it so you can donate it to the Salvation Army. Just don't plan on throwing it on the ice. The teddy bears can be thrown on the ice. In the National Historic Site, Woodstock Museum, as it's called, Museum Square, they're continuing their escape room right up until December 21st. So contact the museum to see if there's any availability for your family or friends or coworkers to participate in the escape room. But I do want to let everyone know that they're still selling the funny City of Woodstock shirts. That could be a nice Christmas present. History books of the city of Woodstock. And one thing they plug year in and year out are the Christmas cards. They still have Christmas cards from 2 years ago to be sold from the museum to be able to go in and buy those soon. So you send cards out to all your family and friends.
Thank you. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just to let not only council members know, because this is fairly new information, and also the public, but everyone is invited to the unveiling of the Purple Bench in Woodstock. This will take place on November 28th at 10 a.m. This is a project that has been led by Ingamo Homes, DASO, as well as the Family Violence Counseling Program of Oxford County and Oxford DART. And I think that has to be recognized is that Magdalen Site Furniture has donated all of these benches. They are going to be in every municipality in Oxford County. So I have been working with Sophie for actually probably a month or two now on bringing this forward to staff. And I just want to say a huge thank you to the Parks and Rec Department, Chris Kerr and Rita Horan, Grant and Brian. You've all been really great on helping us get this coordinated. I'm most excited because this bench is at the new playground and splash pad on Finkel Street. It's a wonderful space for it. And even as they were placing the bench, you know, Chris mentioned that don't be thrown off if it looks like it's off center because it's off to the side of the concrete pad, but that's because they actually placed left space for accessibility if somebody needs a motorized scooter or wheelchair or, you know, baby buggies and such. So mark that date again. It's November 28th. 10 a.m. and we will be at the new splash pad playground on Finkel Street. So thank you so much to everybody involved in that and bringing that forward. And eat as many smile cookies as you possibly can this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
I just want to acknowledge in the chamber today is Beth Merriweather, and it's fitting that we had the discussion on homelessness and encampments because she's been directly affected, so council has a chance to talk to her. And glad to see you take an interest in council, and she's informed me she's let people know how to read the agenda, find the agenda, so more people will be involved, thankfully. So thank you for people like you that get the public involved. The last meeting I had commented about, you know, being nice to people. I have this really nice neighbor. I have a lot of nice neighbors, but the one down the street, he's so thoughtful. And one day he had this cake delivered to his door. And because everybody thinks so much of him, he didn't know who it came from. So he's calling everybody to figure out who it came from. Anyway, so thankfully, we have a really great relationship because somehow a retaining wall jumped out in front of my truck and I needed work, and he so graciously is fixing it. So like I said, you never know, so you should be kind to everyone. And on that note, please buy your smile cookies. Leslie's Tim Hortons is second in Canada, and the proceeds are going to Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So keep buying. It's a great way to give back to the community. That's it.
Well, you don't need to tell me twice to have another cookie. Um, It wasn't mentioned yet, Christmas decoration exchange was happening tonight as well as tomorrow night for drop-offs. I encourage you, if you have any extra Christmas decorations, to drop them off at Goff Hall. And then Saturday morning, 8:30 to 10 a.m., you can go and shop for free. So it's a great event. If you've never been, go check it out. You're gonna find something there I'm sure you're gonna love for your home. Of course, I already mentioned as well, the budget meetings are next week. I encourage everybody at home to watch, see how we're talking about spending money. There's always lots of seats available here, but it will be broadcast online as well, so you can do it with some popcorn on your couch if you wish, and enjoy the meetings. And I'll just finish off with thank council for the support tonight. I think we did make a step forward. I think now next steps, of course, is we're putting it to county council, and I want to thank Warden Ryan for being here tonight to hear the discussion. Of course, the acting director being here as well, willing to answer questions, so she's heard council. And we'll move forward. With that, looking for an adjournment. Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Have a great night, everybody. See you next week.